Welcome to the Fall 2020 Ladies Big Book Study Recording Series. My name is Kimberly and I am a recovered alcoholic. I am the facilitator of a tri-weekly Big Book Study for ladies only, and we record each session so we can share the knowledge along with you. What we do is we read the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous line by line. We pause on each page and have discussion time to share our experience, our strength, and our hope on each page. You are more than welcome to follow along in this series and do the work of the steps of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you do need support at any time, please reach out to me in the Contact Us area of my YouTube channel, and we're happy to provide you with support. The online recordings are open to men and women. Do not be discouraged, gentlemen. Our ladies' point of view may offer you a different perspective. So welcome. I hope you enjoy. All right, ladies, continuing on in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, we are on page 51, second paragraph. This world of ours has made more material progress in the last century than in all the millenniums which went before. Almost everyone knows the reason. Students of ancient history tell us that the intellect of men in those days was equal to the best of today. Yet in ancient times, material progress was painfully slow. The spirit of modern scientific inquiry, research, and invention was almost unknown. In the realm of the material, men's minds were fettered by superstition, tradition, and all sorts of fixed ideas. Some of the contemporaries of Columbus thought a round earth preposterous. Others came near putting Galileo to death for his astronomical heresies. We asked ourselves this: are not some of us just as biased and unreasonable about the realm of the spirit as were the ancients about the realm of the material? Even in the present century, American newspapers were afraid to print an account of the Wright brothers' first successful flight at Kitty Hawk. Had not all efforts of flight failed before? Did not Professor Langley's flying machine go to the bottom of the Potomac River? Was it not true that the best mathematical minds had proved men could never fly? Had not people said God had reserved this privilege to the birds? Only 30 years later, the conquest of the air was almost an old story, and airplane travel was in full swing. So we're going to talk about a little bit here about fixed ideas. And you know, if you think about it, the brain of a man was just as good back in ancient times as it is now, but there was lots of things that held them back from making progress. Fixed ideas, fears, judgment. And these are all some of the same things we have still today when coming into recovery. We come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, we have closed minds, fixed ideas, or prejudices that we may have from, prior attempts at getting sober. And of course, we have fear and we have judgment of other people. We hear that line a lot. Well, I came in and I saw the differences, not the similarities, and I went back out. That's one that's a very good example. And then, of course, we start talking about the Wright brothers and their successful flight at Kitty Hawk. And it's going to go on to talk about that more. But the faith that they could do it was the mainstream of their accomplishment. They had a belief in themselves that they could do this, even though everyone said flying is for the birds, God's reserved that for the birds, it's mathematically impossible. Well, now look at, not today, but a year ago today, airplanes were zigzagging above us at all times. So like the advances we've made in air travel since 85 years ago is astronomical. Heck, we send people intergalactically now. That's at that time they said it's mathematically impossible just for a plane to fly. What would they have said about going to the moon? All right, anybody want to share on that little blurb? Oh, it's a quiet Friday, is it? All right, we'll keep reading. Page 52. But in most fields, our generation has witnessed complete liberation of thinking. Show any longshoreman a Sunday supplement describing a proposal to explore the moon by means of a rocket, and he will say, I bet they do. Maybe not so long either. Is not our age characterized by the ease with which we discard old ideas for new? By the complete readiness with which we throw away the theory or gadget which does not work for something new which does? We had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems this same readiness to change our point of view. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was not a basic solution of these bedevilments more important than whether we should see newsreel of lunar flight? Of course it was. When we saw others solve their problem by a simple reliance upon a spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. The Wright brothers' almost childish faith that they could build a machine which would fly was the mainspring of their accomplishment. Without that, nothing could have happened. We agnostics and atheists were sticking to the idea that self-sufficiency would solve our problems. When others showed us that God's sufficiency worked for them, we began to feel like those who insisted the Wrights would never fly. So lots in there. First, again, there's that foreshadowing that this book has, right? Lunar flight was not in the scope when this book was written in the 1930s. Yet it prophesizes once again that, not too long after we will do it. And of course, we know that in the 1960s, they put a man on the moon. So lunar flight is possible. And, all it takes is that open-mindedness. I can do it. And then we talk about the bedevilments. For those that are in the 164 meeting, there's your homework from the 164 meeting to find the bedevilments. We are having a Halloween event. I will plug it right now. Tomorrow on the 164 at 1 in the afternoon Pacific and 4 Eastern, we're having a Halloween bedevilment party. And there we have the bedevilments. Now, I love the comparison of the bedevilments to the promises. Because there is a promise for every bedevilment. And a lot of the times you hear people and they're like, I'm 60 days sober, I'm out of treatment, all the promises have come true in my life. There's a word that starts with a B and ends with a T that I'd say to those people. Those things haven't come true in your life. You want a true test to whether the promises come true to your life? Read here and see if all of the bedevilments have been solved. So I was having trouble with personal relationships. I no longer have trouble with personal relationships. I no longer have drama. I no longer have gossip, smooth sailing in my personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. Do I react? Do I pause when agitated or doubtful? Yes, I can safely say that I do. We were a prey to misery and depression. Prey to misery and depression means we are always finding it. Always finding misery and depression. I have peace and serenity. So I can say that I no longer have that bedevilment. We couldn't make a living. I am quite successful at making a living now. I'm not scraping by the bottom of the barrel. To add to that is there's no fear of economic insecurity. Does that mean I have $1 million in my bank? No. Does it mean that I have faith in God that it's always going to be okay? Yes. Have my bills always gotten paid, even in the times when I wasn't really sure how it was going to happen? Yeah, and I had faith. We had a feeling of uselessness. I no longer feel useless. I feel like I have a purpose today, so I've overcome that. We were full of fear. I still do not like snakes, but other than that, emotional fears have left me. Once in a while, they do crop up, but I have a program of action to deal with them today. So I've overcome that bedevilment. We were unhappy. I'm happy. I'm pretty happy. That one's good. And we couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. And I like that word, real help, because you'll see a lot of people 60 days out of treatment. They're going to sponsor you because they're recovered, because they did a set of steps in some sort of weird way that, they are like, I'm recovered. I did my steps. I'm going to sponsor you and I'm going to pass on what I have. You don't have anything at 60 days sober except a willingness to learn and grow, hopefully. So I can be of real help to people now. And I've only accomplished that, I'd say, in the past year. I had to learn humility first before I could be of real help to other people. So yes, I'm just over 4 and a bit years sober, but I've only mastered that one in the past year. So the true test to overcoming the promises is found right here on your page with the bedevilments. Because, you can talk a real good game about the promises, but see if you've overcome the bedevilments and we'll talk. And then, of course, how did I solve these problems? Simple reliance upon God. Pretty simple, right? And then, of course, there's those Wright brothers and that blind faith that they could do it. They saw something. They had something that gave them this idea that they could do it. What that was, I'm not too sure. I've never studied the Wright brothers. But for me, in Alcoholics Anonymous, what gave me that I can do this? Seeing other people who had done it. Hearing other people talk like I talk now. And saying, if they could do it, I can do it. I want that. That's how I got that blind faith that I could do this and be successful. So that's my breakdown on page 52. Anybody else want to share on that? Gotta love them bedevilments. Kelly D. She's fast on the hand.
Like, woof. Hi, my name is Kelly. I'm an alcoholic. It's great to be here. I've never heard the opposite of the bedevilments are their promises, or they could be promises if we do the program kind of thing that you were saying. I wrote when I did it with my sponsor that these are the symptoms that the alcoholic has. These are symptoms, and then then we could get sober, and then we're dry because we're not practicing the program. And I just wanted to say that the stuff that I learn on this meeting is just so amazing. It's just such every time you do the big book, it's just wow. You're so right, like you said that last meeting. But anyway, thanks.
I didn't say I was right, did I?
No.
Oh,
you said last time that what did you say? You said something really great about every time you do.
Oh, something new comes out every time.
Something comes up, and something popped out with you on the last meeting.
Yeah.
I think it was something that I don't remember, but I wrote it down. It was the last meeting, but anyway, I'll shut up.
Okay. Vanessa, you were next.
Hey everybody, Vanessa, alcoholic. So when I had my 1 year of sobriety, I was like rah sobriety, happiest girl in the entire world. Everybody just felt my energy all the time. And as my second year hit, I was going through some personal stuff, really, really heavy stuff. And all of this came back, which was the couldn't control our emotional natures, depression, we couldn't make a living, feeling of uselessness. It's so true, even even like when you're still like I was still sober, but I was just coasting, like I was in airplane mode. And those are really big things to watch out for in our sobriety, because we go, oh well, I'm not drinking, so I'm doing good, I'm doing really good, but we're not listening to ourselves with those bedevilments, like we said, right? So that's a really good key of realizing that that's starting to come back. And what I wasn't doing was coming back to AA into the rooms. I was just not drinking. And then it crept up. And then sure enough, I relapsed. And I'm already happy. Like I'm just back. I'm starting over from the beginning. I'm 30 days right now. And it's weird because it's 2.5 years I should be having, or 2 years and 6 months right now, or 2.5, whatever. Doesn't matter. But this is such a real thing that we go through even in our sobriety. So that's why it's so important to stay connected in these groups and show your face. These Zoom meetings are just so awesome that we can do this from our own home. Like I'm a mother, so it's really nice and easy to be able to do this now, instead of being like, oh, well, my husband's passed away now, but like, when's he going to be home? And like, how am I going to get there? Blah, blah, blah. But we can make this work. And I just love this community so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Regina. Regina? Regina? Where'd she go? Well, your mic's not working. Okay, we'll come back. Okay. Trish?
Hi, I'm Trish and I'm an alcoholic. I really like the part that every time you do the lines, that line by line with you, Kim, this is the first time I ever heard the word bedevilment. And it's just pretty cool how it came up right at Halloween for everyone. So I like also that the old and the new in these meetings. Like you can go back to the Wright brothers and see everybody sitting reading the big book. And yet we're on this new modern technology, seeing so many people and being with a book and reading it. It's mind-boggling. And I just want to say I'm so grateful to be here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Flo. Just gotta hit your unmute.
Hi, I'm Flo. I'm an alcoholic. I just wanted to jump back to page 51 for a minute. What I highlighted, which applied to me when I got here for sure, is are not some of us just as biased and unreasonable about the realm of the spirit as were the ancients about the realm of the material? And that was certainly myself when I came into the room. So I had such a closed mind. But I'm glad I hung around long enough to get it open. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mary B.
Hi, everyone. Kimberly, thank you so much for this meeting. And I'm in the program a little bit longer than you, and I'm amazed that I'd never heard the comparison of the bedevilment bedevilments to the promises. So thank you for pointing that out to me. It's very, very helpful.
Thank you so much. Marianne, Toronto.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic from Toronto. My name's Marianne. Grateful to be here. Grateful to be sober. Great to see everyone today. So in the paragraph that begins the bedevilments, it says we had to ask ourselves why. And the person that took me through this book said, do you want a solution to those questions, Marianne? And I said, yeah, I do. And she goes, let's read on. Because there's solutions to all these, as you said, Kim. And I just got to do what the book tells me to do. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And another thing to point out, and some people say in other big book studies that this is a human condition. I don't like that terminology at all. What this says here is these are human problems. It's not a human condition. They're human problems. Every human runs across these problems. But our book has told us previously that when we became alcoholic and were unable to come past our problems, they mounted up and were insurmountable. And that's the thing is, we do not have these problems because we're alcoholic. We have these problems because we're human. We can't get over them because we're alcoholic. And there's a big distinction there as well. And when Marianne was talking, she just pointed that out, right? The human problems. This doesn't say these are our alcoholic problems. And I really want you to sit and marinate on that a bit, because a lot of people think that the spiritual malady or these problems that we get in our lives are what makes us alcoholic, and they're not. What makes us alcoholic is that we drink to solve these problems and we get more problems. And then we can't stop drinking once we've tried to solve our problems with alcohol. And then our problems pile up so much that we're utterly defeated. We can't solve our problems. We can't stop drinking. We can't control how much we take. But these are not problems exclusive to alcoholics. They're human problems. Everyone has them. All right, Regina's got her hand back up. Let's see if her mic works.
Hi everyone, I'm Regina. I'm an alcoholic.
Perfect.
You hear me? Great.
Yep.
Yeah, I have in my book that that these are not a result of a spiritual condition. That they're human problems, and the answer is to find a spiritual solution. That was my understanding of this. And the other thing that jumped out to me today too was where it said, is not our age characterized by the ease with which we discard old ideas for new? And I just, it's just been my experience in doing this work. It's all about, changing my old ideas. And the only way that I'm able to change my old ideas is to do this work and have a spiritual experience. So this is great. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And I'll break it down more when we get to step 4 and we talk about the spiritual malady and resentment. So we'll break that down a little bit more. Lee?
You got it? Okay.
Yep.
As I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, I have asked myself or been in this position, this human problem many times. And so every one of them I've underlined, and I was like, yep, I felt that. Yes, I've thought that. Yes, I've been there. And then when I read the promises, I have exactly the same response. It's like, yes, I've had that. Yes, I've experienced that. It's a great thing. It's an eye-opening experience. What I didn't get was that I seem to have the world of floating ideas all over the place, and you put it together for me today. And that was really helpful, because that's exactly what I've been doing with some of these questions that are coming up. I couldn't seem to have real I wasn't able to help people, or any of those statements were. I found out that the whole answer is the spiritual connection, that I have to ask God and talk to God and be with God to figure out what is going on with this. And it's been really, really helpful to put it together. Well, there's this page and there's this page, and they go together like this, because that's actually how my brain works a bit. I like this kind of stuff. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely. It's a good barometer. It's a good gauge of where we're at. And I just realized I forgot to share my sheet with you guys after we finished last time that I used for my weekly checkup. Can someone remind me this time to share that at the end of the work? It's like my weekly check-in sheet. I want to share that with you guys. Angela. Whoops. Can you unmute?
Sorry, I was PPing. I finally found the word bedevilment. I was like, where's she getting this at? This is my first time at this meeting. I'm really enjoying it so far. Totally describes me today. And a lot of days, actually. But I really like the paragraph we had to ask ourselves why we shouldn't apply to our human problems this same readiness to change. Our point of view, we were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. And I'm trying to get through this without crying, because I've had the spiritual experience before I ever even became an alcoholic. And I realized that I've been bypassing this step. Okay, I'm almost 10 months sober. Just, probably I think next Monday or Tuesday. And the other night it was just like, on the meeting, everybody's talking about the steps and this and that and the book, and I don't understand. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm like, this is stupid. This is so crazy that I'm that scared of the steps that I can't even open a book and study it. Like, it's asinine to me. So I finally called my sponsor and told her, I have to back that up. She was unavailable for a little while when I was ready to actually do the first step. And so someone else stepped in and helped me, but I didn't have the same kind of, I don't know, it gave the reaction I had to the first step. I was like, I don't like this feeling. But when I did it with her just the other day, I felt totally different about it. And I did have that, I actually can say that I had that peace and serenity. I felt it. And it's like, okay, I know this all is very emotional. And that is my problem, is that I've shoved things for so long. That I know I've got to do this, or I'm never going to be better. And that's all I have to share. And I'm sorry, I always cry when I share. I don't know why. I really don't like all these emotions, but I know that it's uncomfortable and I have to do it. So I'll pass on that.
Thank you so much, Angela. And yeah, just remember that, like, for me, I didn't get into this work until I was 2 years sober. Right? So you're ahead of me, but starting at 10 months. And we've got these all recorded on YouTube, so you can follow along at home and listen to all of our experience as well. And the point is that we do the set of steps. This is a beginning. And then what we do is we enlarge our spiritual life by keeping on reading the book with others and doing the work and connecting with God. And it's an always evolving process. We're never done. We never graduate out of this class. We repeat the same class over and over and over again, but we keep learning new things. So we're super glad you're here, and follow along with us. Okay, let's keep reading before we run out of time. Okay, where are we? 53. Logic is great stuff. We liked it. We still like it. It is not by chance we were given the power to reason, to examine the evidence of our senses, and to draw conclusions. That is one of man's magnificent attributes. We, agnostically inclined, would not feel satisfied with a proposal which does not lend itself to reasonable approach and interpretation. Hence, we are at pains to tell you why we think our present faith is reasonable, why we think it more sane and logical to believe than not to believe, and why we say our former thinking was soft and mushy when we threw up our hands in doubt and said, we don't know. When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis, we could not postpone or evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he is nothing. God either is or he isn't. What is our choice to be? Arriving at this point, we were squarely confronted with the question of faith. We couldn't duck the issue. Some of us had already walked far over the bridge of reason. toward the desired shore of faith. The outlines and the promise of the new land had brought luster to tired eyes and fresh courage to flagging spirits. Friendly hands reached out in welcome. We were grateful that reason had brought us so far, but somehow we couldn't quite step ashore. Perhaps we had been leaning too heavily on reason that last mile, and we did not like to lose our support. So there in that first chapter, a lot of people struggle because they still have a lot of strong will with respect to other things. But what we've learned in reading up to this point is that strong will doesn't help us here. But yet we have to remember that God gave us this power to reason. He gave us these brains to use. It's that we had been using them in selfish means. And so here, I love how it says, this proposal lends itself to a reasonable approach and interpretation. That doesn't say, take what you like and leave the rest. It doesn't say that. It says, here is our approach. Take it and interpret it and apply it to your life as you please. But it's our approach. It's not, I'll interpret it this way and say that way. It's pretty basic, what it outlines. But how I apply it is going to look differently to how Marianne applies it, or how Carol applies it, or how Anne-Marie applies it. But what we're doing is we're all applying the same program. And I think that's very important because some people miss that part. And some people, like myself, have read this book hundreds of times. And other people, this is their first time reading it. So when I first started on this, my approach was a lot differently than it is now. This is a beginning. We are meant to grow from this. These are suggestions on how to apply it to our life. I don't get down on my knees at night beside my bed and pray and write out an inventory. Why? Because I pray and meditate throughout the day, all the time. I'm always looking for fear. I'm always looking for my conduct. And if I need to, I stop and I do that step 10 right there in the day. So, what it looks like for each person is different, but the principles of what we're doing each day are the same. And I think it's important to say that. When we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we could not postpone or evade. Do it now. Not, you need to go to 90 meetings in 90 days before you start doing this work. Bill got told this program when he was drunk at the kitchen table. Do not delay. Yes, he had to go to hospital and be separated from alcohol before he commenced the work, but he was laid out this program of action drunk. He had a little refresher when he sobered up before he started to do the action. But, there's no waiting here. I'm going to wait. My sponsor won't let me do it until I've done 90 meetings in 90 days. Fire your sponsor. Move on to somebody else. You're going to die. Holy Hannah. So we arrived at this point. Now I want to paint a little picture here. So this paragraph, we can paint a really beautiful picture. Starts out, your ship's sinking. You're on the SS, whatever your name is. I'm on the SS Kimberly, and my boat's got a leak, and I'm sinking. I'm sinking in shark-infested water, and there's sharks circling around my boat as I'm sinking, and I see you guys on shore. And you guys look safe. And you guys look happy. And you guys are holding out your hands saying, it's scary, I know, but just reach out and come. Some of us have our hand out a little farther than others, but some of us are still holding on to the reason, I can save my boat. I just need to bucket the water out a bit. Oh, it's sinking more and more, and the sharks are getting closer. That safe beach looks so much more inviting. And we're here holding our hands out. And it's just that you're hanging on to reason too much. You can't save the boat, it's sinking. Step onto the shore. There's a hand here to show you the way. And there's a beautiful beach behind us. Wouldn't that be lovely? Vanessa.
I just wanted to share something that my sponsor shared with me recently that has really helped with all of these feelings. And it's when you're just in your day and it's too much and you're living in that fear and anything, just going, you got this, right, God? And you literally just say that, and then you have that connection with God. That helps so much. And I find that that's just a simple, quick prayer that you can say at any time through the day. And it's your connection just going, you got this, right? And then it's literally this warm feeling in your chest, like it's going to be okay. And I'm telling you, the shit I've been through, sorry for swearing, in the past few days here has been awful. But that connection that you have with our higher power is a real thing, and you have to trust it. That's it.
Absolutely. And I have a short one too, where I'm just like, God help me. Oh, God help me. Right? Just inviting him into every situation. Kelly D.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for bringing this to our attention about that whole thing on shore. Like, I was belligerent for so long. Like, I tried to get sober and get on shore when I kept getting evicted from apartments, and there was an AA meeting close to where one of my apartments was, and I went, and I remember I was 26 and I got sober at 31, 32. I'm 11. I'm in my 11th. No, I'm in my 12th year. I think. See, what happened was I went and I just was like, and they were all like, we're gonna help you, and I just didn't want to receive that help. And then, in the big book here, I underlined we couldn't duck the issue, and that arrived at this point, and I kept underlining reason, desired, sure of faith, and friendly hand. Like, all those things happened, and then another reason, and then reason. I kept underlining reason, and then without knowing it, had we not been brought to where we stood by a certain kind of faith, and then I wrote in the margin, like, we have faith already by going to AA, like we need help. Like, and we were on our own trying to do it ourselves, but the thing is, sometimes we don't stay in AA if we're court mandated, or just other reasons why we don't stay. And if you could just give me a recap of what you said when you have some time on the lend itself to reasonable approach and interpretation. I missed what you said about that when you have some time.
Yep. And it's taped too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right.
And it'll be loaded today because I'm caught up.
Okay. All right. So I'll go back.
Yeah. It's easier. Tracy. You just got to hit your unmute, love. There you go.
Okay. Hi, y'all. I'm Tracy, and I'm an addict, alcoholic, anything. Thank you for inviting me to this meeting, because I put it down at the wrong time. I was at 11 for Eastern Standard. So I'm glad you corrected me and told me it was 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So I found y'all, and I'm glad I did. And I put it in my calendar so it's there, because I hadn't been able to save the meetings I've been to. I'm just going back to the links that a friend of mine has been sending me so that I can do the noon meeting. And then I ended up at a meeting in Australia last night at 8 o'clock. I thought it was local, but whatever, it worked. I'm just grateful that I'm alive. I'm grateful I have another chance at this. I know when I came in, I had to let go of all the Catholicism that I had been raised with. And I started with HP, higher power, with the God, which really worked for me because, if you pull in handicap parking, it's labeled HP. So every time I would go to a store anywhere, I would be reminded God is there, or school, whatever. And I think it took in total probably about 3 years of working on it, where I came to a God of my understanding that I know is with me all the time. He or she, it doesn't move. I do. It's my choice whether or not I let go. You know, sometimes everything I let go of has claw marks. One of the things I've recently let go of was my parents' estate has been open for 3 years, and I signed off. I don't have the energy to fight nor the desire anymore. What goes around comes around. Anyway, I'm done with that fight, and I still have resentments. You know, I've got a lot of shit to go through. I'm working on my first step. My sponsor wants me to write it out. I didn't have my life didn't fall apart this time. Outside, it was me inside. I was playing Russian roulette every day, and I was lucky that I woke up or came to. And last Thursday, I cried about what I had done to my kids when I relapsed 20 years. It was like a nuclear bomb went off in our house. And there's just so much grief and regret. But I've been living in amends for many years now, and all 4 of my kids I have different relationships with. But I have relationships, that's the point. And it's only because of AA and the 12 steps. And you don't do them just once, you do them over and over and over again till it becomes just part of how you live. And I don't have that today because I've been out. I've experienced it, but I don't have it today. I don't have boundaries. I don't have a lot of things. But I do have, I'm abstinent. I haven't used since the 17th. I made it through the withdrawals. Last night was kind of hairy. I had 2 phone calls from old users.
All right, Tracy, super glad you're here, but we do have to stick to the page that we're on discussing. This is a big book study, but super glad you're here. All right, Gloriana, real quick on this page.
Hi, thank you. Oh my God, Kimberly, you're hitting it out of the park again. But yeah, I was at a meeting earlier this morning, and it was all about, trusting in our higher power, and it's interesting that God truly works in mysterious ways. And I realized too, when I start losing my God connection, my higher power connection, I start getting the human problems back. And I had that happen the other day, and I mean, I have to tell myself, like the other night, due to a relative who has a problem going in and out. And I got very emotional and out of control, and I was back in the bedevilments. And I mean, it's just that an indication that I'm recovered, but I have to really keep vigilant. And it's so important to keep restudying and rehearing and listening to people on all spectrums of recovery. And I just love that. And it's true that every time we're stuck in the shark-infested waters, somebody is there with a hand to pull us out, and that's true. And it's amazing how, I love how you pointed out before, how, the bedevilments are the opposite of the promises. Most of the time I'm in the promises, and I'm feeling them. But every now and then, if I start slipping up and start getting large and in charge, then boom. Anyway, thanks for letting me share. I love you.
Thanks so much. Yeah, and you got to remember, when you're on that boat and your boat is sinking and you see all the sharks, if you look past the sharks into that crystal clear water, you'll see all of the other boats that sunk before yours. And that's where all the people on the shore came from. And we have to remember that. My boat sunk. That's how I got here. I wasn't always this way. I was like swimming with the fish. Regina.
Hi, Regina, alcoholic. This is interesting. I was just having a conversation with somebody the other day about, this person was like, this line, God is everything, or else God is nothing. And she was like, well, what do you mean God is everything? Like, God is that fire, God's that telephone pole, God's that house. Like, she was just over intellectualizing what was really being said here. And finally, I said to her, I was like, look, God just isn't you. It's a power greater than you, and self-reliance isn't going to get you far. So this whole idea of having faith and, understanding what faith is, it's all about, again, it's about changing my old ideas and just having faith that, other people are doing this, and other people in A are doing this, and they're doing it successfully, and it might not be perfect, but they're doing it. So why not give it a try? And I actually had to say to her, is it possible for you to think about this in a different way? Is it possible for you to, get out of your old idea and think about things differently? And, she made a start on that. The other thing that jumped out to me too was, when you were talking about your visual of the ship, it was very reminiscent of like when we talk about our character defects and how, we can hold on to them until, it's up to us to let go of them, and it can those character defects can take us down, so it's the same idea. Like, I have a choice here. I can have trust and faith in a higher power that if I let this go, all great things are going to come into my life, but I have to let go of it. So when you were talking about that, I just kept visualizing, being like on that boat and being like, okay, but what's going to happen to me? And instead of, I'm conditioned to think the negative, and I need to be thinking more about, good things can come into my life. How about that? That's a change of the way that I think. So thanks. This was really, really good discussion.
Thank you so much, Regina. Okay, ladies, we have 3.5 pages left, so let's get in 1 or 2 more shares if someone would like to share on this page, because it'll be a weird recording if we don't. Anybody else want to speak on this page? Someone's got to. Come on. Anybody not willing to go over the bridge to shore? Thanks, Carol. Bailing me out.
Hey, I'm Carol. I'm an alcoholic, and I did not have any markings on this page, which I guess this is definitely, the different, the opposite of the promises. Wow. And then I don't know if I've ever heard the term bedevilment. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure I read this. I know I've read this chapter, but anyway, yeah, wow. Then when it says God is everything or he's nothing, but I, once again, I'm a student, I'm learning. I, right now, sometimes don't feel human, but that's okay. I guess I've got to be human. I don't know, whatever. But everything that you mentioned, Kimberly, was just, wow. I'm just like, wow, wow, wow. And I'm so glad that I joined the meeting, even though I was a little bit late. But the opposite of the promises, I've definitely got to read this. I've got to, of course, more work to do. And this page is just very, very enlightening and insightful. So I did take out a pen, and I'm sure I'll grab a highlighter as well. But one thing, my sponsor, Marguerite, I talk about my sponsors in the past. Marguerite, my very first sponsor, when your analogy was with the boat, and I'm a real visual person, and she always used, I'd call her up and say, oh, he did this, or he did that, or he didn't do this, or he didn't do that, or, this and that, whatever. And she'd say, roll over and float, roll over and float. When you're out in the middle of the ocean, your boat turns over, roll over and float. And I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you hear blah, blah, blah? And that was her answer, was roll over and float. And
So I guess the buoyancy, the salt water or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but yeah, this and that, roll over and float. And I was like, that was the last thing I wanted to hear was roll over and float. But yeah, and I'm just, wow, this is really good for me, because like I said, I did not know those were the opposite of the promises. And I really appreciate your service more than you know. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Carol. All right, Marianne in New York.
Hi, Marianne, alcoholic. Just at the end of where the last paragraph that we read, to make note that the word reason is actually capitalized 3 times there. And this whole thing to me and what we're talking about is have faith. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Anne Marie. Oh, where'd you go? Is it working?
There we go. Okay. Hi, I'm Anne Marie. I'm an alcoholic. 2 things. First of all, I'm not backtracking into the book, but what you were saying earlier in the week about call it what you will, what it really is God. I've been using the term higher power, and I just realized today through the reading that it's just rebellion on my part, that it is in fact God, and I want to thank you for leading me to that. And then that last paragraph, I immediately thought of the book Drop the Rock, because you can play with that. Reason could be the rock you're hanging on to and you just won't let go of. And friendly hands that stretched out and welcome, that I can attest to, because it's the fellowship that keeps me coming back. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and if anybody's looking for that line, it's on page 46. The higher power, which is God. We talked about that last time, and you can hear the recording up on the YouTube channel. Marianne, Toronto.
I know when I had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else. At this point, I'm full of fear. So that's where the leap takes. I do have to reach out for those hands. And quite frank, and I'm so grateful that I had good recovery around me, because that was the only hand outstretched. And I was full of fear, and that's what the person told me. You're full of fear. So you just have to take my hand, and come and do what I did. But it tells me right here that that's my problem. I'm full of fear. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, ladies, that got us. Oh, perfect, Beverly. We had 2 minutes left. Yes. Go ahead.
Okay, just very quickly. I'm reminded here. So it says that God is either everything or else he is nothing. It reminds me of page 44, where it says to be doomed to an alcoholic death or live life on a spiritual basis are not easy decisions. So even when we're drowning, and someone reaches out their hand to help us, we're still making that decision. Like, wow, that's amazing. The power of alcoholism, that we would pause and not reach out to that hand. So thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, ladies, let's close out with the Serenity Prayer.